Welcome, aspiring food safety officers, to this guide on the endocrine system and hormones. Envision your body as a sophisticated metropolis. The endocrine system is the silent conductor of our internal orchestra. It's a collection of ductless glands that secrete hormones directly into the bloodstream. Glands plus hormones equals regulation. This system acts as the body's master regulator, fine-tuning our internal environment. As future food safety officers, understanding this network is fundamental to your role. Contaminants in food and certain agricultural practices can influence hormonal balance. This knowledge will form the scientific bedrock upon which you can evaluate risks and protect the well-being of the community you serve. The endocrine and nervous systems are the body's major communication networks. The nervous system specializes in speed, using electrical impulses for immediate reactions. The endocrine system uses hormones released into the bloodstream for slower, sustained communication, regulating long-term processes like growth and metabolism. Unlike the nervous system's direct signals, hormones broadcast body-wide, affecting only cells with matching receptors. The brain integrates both systems via the hypothalamus, coordinating rapid responses and long-term needs. Why is the endocrine system so important? It maintains homeostasis. Homeostasis is the body's ability to maintain a stable internal environment. Think of it as the body's internal thermostat. Our body temperature, blood sugar and blood pressure need to be just right. The endocrine system is the guardian of this balance. It governs nearly every major physiological process. It manages our responses to stimuli. Failure in the system can have cascading effects. For a food safety officer, homeostasis is paramount. Foodborne contaminants can disrupt endocrine function. Your work helps preserve the internal balance. Let's clarify the difference between glands and hormones. Glands are like factories producing hormones. Hormones are the chemical messengers that travel throughout the body to perform specific jobs. We'll explore the major endocrine glands like the pituitary, thyroid, adrenals, and pancreas. Understanding which gland produces which hormone is critical. This foundational knowledge will allow you to build a comprehensive understanding of endocrinology. Hormones are potent chemical substances, the heart of endocrine communication. They orchestrate long-term changes from growth to metabolism. Secreted in tiny amounts, their effects are dramatic. They're messengers with a specific purpose, to regulate cell activity. Hormones trigger cells to speed up reactions or synthesize proteins. Understanding their nature is key to appreciating how they coordinate the body. Once secreted, hormones enter the bloodstream, traveling throughout the body. But how do they only affect intended cells? The answer lies in the lock and key mechanism. Target cells have receptors, protein structures that bind to specific hormones. These receptors are either on the cell membrane, triggering a chain reaction, or inside the cell, directly influencing genetic expression. This ensures precise hormonal communication, coordinating activity throughout the body. Understanding this lock and key system is essential for understanding endocrine control. When a hormone binds to its receptor, it sets in motion events that alters the cell's behavior. Hormones can fine-tune cellular activity, acting as architects of physiological change. One action a hormone can have is to alter the permeability of the cell membrane. Another function is to stimulate the synthesis of new proteins within the cell. Hormones can also have a more immediate effect by activating or deactivating enzymes. Some hormones tell other glands to secrete their own hormones. In essence, the effects of hormones are vast, all in the service of maintaining the body's overall health. Hormones, acting as chemical messengers, differ chemically, impacting their synthesis, transport, and interaction with target cells. They're categorized into three classes: steroid, protein, peptide, and amine hormones. Steroid hormones derived from cholesterol are lipid-soluble, allowing them to pass through cell membranes and bind to intracellular receptors. Protein and peptide hormones made of amino acids are water-soluble. They bind to surface receptors, initiating a signal cascade. Amine hormones derived from single amino acids include catecholamines and thyroid hormones. This classification is key to understanding hormone behavior. The endocrine system uses feedback mechanisms to maintain precise control, preventing chaos and disease. Negative feedback, like a thermostat, inhibits a pathway's earlier steps. For example, thyroid hormones inhibit TRH and TSH release, preventing excessive levels. Positive feedback amplifies the original stimulus, used for processes needing rapid completion, like childbirth. Understanding both feedback types is key to appreciating the body's hormonal control. Excellent. Let's tour the major endocrine glands and the vital hormones they produce, starting with the ultimate control center. Deep within the brain lies the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is where the nervous and endocrine systems meet. It acts as the supreme commander, translating nerve signals into chemical commands. The hypothalamus processes data and initiates endocrine responses, maintaining homeostasis. It controls the pituitary gland, effectively sitting at the top of the endocrine chain. The hypothalamus is the master control center. Understanding its role is crucial because it's the starting point for hormonal cascades influenced by diet and environmental factors. External factors can have widespread effects on human physiology, starting from the top. The hypothalamus exerts its control over the pituitary gland by producing and releasing its own set of specialized hormones. These hormones are unique in that their primary target is another endocrine gland, the anterior pituitary. They are broadly classified into two groups, releasing hormones and inhibiting hormones. As their name suggests, releasing hormones stimulate the anterior pituitary to secrete its hormones, while inhibiting hormones prevent the anterior pituitary from secreting its hormones. This dual control system of go and stop signals allows the hypothalamus to fine-tune the activity of the pituitary with remarkable precision, ensuring that hormone levels are managed effectively according to the body's moment-to-moment needs. Let's look at some of the key releasing hormones. Thyrotropin-releasing hormone, or TRH, is the signal that tells the anterior pituitary to release thyroid-stimulating hormone, or TSH. Gonadotropin-releasing hormone, or GnRH, stimulates the release of the two gonadotropins, follicle-stimulating hormone, or FSH, and luteinizing hormone, or LH. Corticotropin-releasing hormone, or CRH, triggers the release of adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH. Finally, growth hormone-releasing hormone, or GHRH, promotes the secretion of growth hormone, or GH. Each of these releasing hormones is a specific command, a green light for a particular hormonal pathway to proceed, initiating a cascade that will affect glands and tissues throughout the body. On the other side of the coin are the inhibiting hormones, which provide the crucial stop signals. The most prominent of these is somatostatin, which is also known as growth hormone inhibiting hormone, or GHIH. As its name implies, GHIH blocks the release of growth hormone from the anterior pituitary, working in opposition to GHRH to regulate growth and metabolism. Another important inhibiting hormone is prolactin inhibiting hormone, or PIH, which is now known to be the neurotransmitter dopamine. PIH constantly suppresses the secretion of prolactin from the anterior pituitary. This inhibition is only lifted under specific physiological conditions, such as during late pregnancy and lactation, allowing prolactin levels to rise. This constant suppression is a key feature of prolactin regulation. These releasing and inhibiting hormones do not enter the general bloodstream. Instead, they travel from the hypothalamus to the anterior pituitary through a special localized network of blood vessels called the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system. This portal system acts as a private, direct communication line, ensuring that these potent hypothalamic hormones are delivered in high concentration directly to their target cells in the anterior pituitary without being diluted in the general circulation. This elegant system highlights the efficiency and precision of hypothalamic control. Understanding this list of hormones is key for your exams, as it forms the basis of the entire regulatory axis for the thyroid, adrenal glands, and gonads. The hypothalamus controls the posterior pituitary, which stores hormones produced in the hypothalamus. One crucial hormone is antidiuretic hormone, or ADH, also known as vasopressin. The primary role of ADH is to regulate the body's water balance by acting on the kidneys. ADH allows more water to be reabsorbed from the urine back into the bloodstream, conserving body water and preventing dehydration. The hypothalamus monitors blood concentration. If too concentrated, it releases ADH. If blood becomes too dilute, ADH secretion decreases. A deficiency in ADH results in diabetes insipidus, leading to excessive urination and thirst. Alcohol inhibits ADH secretion, leading to dehydration. Oxytocin, a peptide hormone, is produced in the hypothalamus and stored in the posterior pituitary. It's known for its effects during reproduction. During labor, oxytocin stimulates uterine contractions. After birth, it aids lactation via the milk letdown reflex. Research shows oxytocin influences social behavior, promoting trust and bonding. Understanding oxytocin provides a holistic view of health. remember its roles in uterine contractions and milk letdown. The pituitary gland suspended from the hypothalamus is nestled in the skull. Though pea-sized, it's the endocrine system's master gland. It controls major endocrine glands like the thyroid and adrenal glands. The pituitary has two lobes, the anterior and posterior. The anterior pituitary manufactures hormones. The posterior pituitary, an extension of the hypothalamus, stores hormones. Together, they influence growth, metabolism, stress, and reproduction. Understanding this gland is key to understanding the endocrine system. The anterior pituitary, the glandular front lobe of the master gland, is the true workhorse of endocrine regulation. It is a bustling hub of hormonal activity, responsible for synthesizing and secreting 6 principal hormones that have profound effects throughout the body. These hormones can be categorized based on their targets. 4 of the 6 hormones are what we call tropic hormones, meaning their primary function is to stimulate another endocrine gland to produce its own hormones. The remaining 2 hormones are non-tropic as they act directly on non-endocrine target tissues. This mix of tropic and non-tropic hormones allows the anterior pituitary to exert both direct and indirect control over a vast array of bodily functions. The 6 key hormones produced by the anterior pituitary are growth hormone or GH, prolactin or PRL, thyroid-stimulating hormone or TSH, adrenocorticotropic hormone or ACE8, follicle-stimulating hormone or FSH, and luteinizing hormone or LH. A helpful mnemonic to remember these is flat pig, where the I is just a placeholder. The 4 tropic hormones are the flat hormones FSH, LH, ACT, and TSH. They regulate the function of the gonads, the adrenal cortex, and the thyroid gland, respectively. The 2 non-tropic hormones are the pig hormones, prolactin and growth hormone, the I being ignored. These act directly on tissues like the mammary glands and various cells throughout the body to influence lactation and growth. The production and release of each of these 6 hormones are meticulously regulated by the releasing and inhibiting hormones from the hypothalamus, which we discussed earlier. The hypothalamic-hypophyseal portal system ensures these commands are delivered swiftly and efficiently, allowing the anterior pituitary to respond rapidly to the body's changing needs. For example, in response to stress, the hypothalamus releases CRH, which immediately prompts the anterior pituitary to secrete ACH, initiating the stress hormone cascade. This hierarchical control ensures that the entire system is coordinated and that hormone secretion is appropriate for any given physiological situation, maintaining the delicate balance of homeostasis. Disorders of the anterior pituitary often involve the overproduction, also called hypersecretion, or underproduction, known as hyposecretion, of one or more of these hormones. For instance, a pituitary tumor might secrete excessive amounts of growth hormone, leading to gigantism in children or acromegaly in adults. Conversely, damage to the pituitary could lead to a deficiency in multiple hormones, a condition known as hypopituitarism, which can cause a wide range of symptoms related to thyroid, adrenal, and gonadal failure. In the following sections, we will take a closer look at each of these 6 crucial hormones, exploring their specific functions and importance in detail. Growth hormone, or GH, is a major hormone secreted by the anterior pituitary. Its most prominent effect is the stimulation of growth, particularly during childhood and adolescence. GH promotes the growth of body tissues, especially the skeletal and muscular systems. Much of its growth-promoting effect is mediated by insulin-like growth factors, or IGFs, produced by the liver. GH also has significant metabolic effects, helping to conserve glucose by encouraging the body to use fats for energy. Factors including age, exercise, sleep, stress, and nutritional status can influence GH secretion. Imbalances in GH secretion can lead to visible disorders, especially during childhood. Hyposecretion results in pituitary dwarfism, while hypersecretion in a child leads to gigantism. In adults, hypersecretion causes acromegaly, leading to enlarged hands, feet, and facial features. Prolactin, or PRL, is the other major non-tropic hormone produced by the anterior pituitary gland. Its primary and most well-understood function is related to lactation. After childbirth, prolactin stimulates the development of the mammary glands and, most importantly, initiates and maintains the production of milk. While oxytocin is responsible for the letdown or ejection of milk, it's prolactin that ensures the milk is actually synthesized in the first place. The regulation of prolactin is unique among the anterior pituitary hormones. For most of the time, its secretion is actively suppressed by prolactin-inhibiting hormone, or PIH, which we now know is actually the neurotransmitter dopamine, released from the hypothalamus. This tonic inhibition means that prolactin levels in the blood are normally kept very low in both men and non-pregnant females. But the situation changes dramatically during pregnancy. Rising estrogen levels during pregnancy stimulate the prolactin-secreting cells called lactotrophs in the anterior pituitary to increase in both number and size. This leads to a steady rise in prolactin levels, preparing the breasts for lactation. However, the high levels of progesterone, which are also present during pregnancy, block prolactin's effects at the breast tissue, so milk is not actually produced until after the baby is born. Following delivery, the sharp drop in estrogen and progesterone levels removes this block, allowing prolactin to finally initiate milk synthesis. After childbirth, the act of suckling by the infant plays a crucial role in maintaining high prolactin levels and continued milk production. The mechanical stimulation of the nipple sends nerve signals to the hypothalamus, which responds by inhibiting the release of dopamine, or PIH. This removal of the inhibitory signal allows the anterior pituitary to secrete a surge of prolactin, which stimulates milk production for the next feeding. This neuroendocrine reflex basically creates a supply and demand system. The more the baby nurses, the more prolactin is released and the more milk is produced. If nursing stops, prolactin levels fall and milk production ceases within just a few days. While its role in lactation is clear, the function of prolactin in males is less well understood, though we do know it exists. High levels of prolactin, a condition called hyperprolactinemia in males, often caused by a pituitary tumor, can inhibit the release of GnRH from the hypothalamus, leading to decreased testosterone levels, reduced libido, and infertility. In females outside of pregnancy, hyperprolactinemia can cause inappropriate milk production, known as galactorrhea, and disruption of the menstrual cycle. So, for your exam, the key takeaway for prolactin is its primary role in initiating and maintaining milk production, and its unique regulation by tonic inhibition from dopamine. The anterior pituitary secretes tropic hormones. These hormones stimulate other endocrine glands to secrete their own hormones. The four major tropic hormones are thyroid-stimulating hormone, TSH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH, follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, and luteinizing hormone, LH. TSH targets the thyroid gland, ACTH targets the adrenal cortex, and FSH and LH target the gonads. This creates a hormonal axis regulated by negative feedback, ensuring stable hormone levels. Thyroid-stimulating hormone, or TSH, is produced by the anterior pituitary. Its target is the thyroid gland. TSH stimulates thyroid tissue growth and regulates thyroid hormone synthesis. It tells the thyroid gland to get to work. TSH release is controlled by TRH from the hypothalamus. The hypothalamic pituitary thyroid, or HPT, axis is a negative feedback loop. Measuring TSH levels is important for diagnosing thyroid disorders. High TSH indicates hypothyroidism, while low TSH indicates hyperthyroidism. Adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH, also known as corticotropin, is another crucial tropic hormone secreted by the anterior pituitary. Its name honestly perfectly describes its function. It's a hormone, a tropic one, that acts on the adrenal cortex, hence adrenocortico. Specifically, ACTH targets the outer layer of the adrenal glands, which are these small glands sitting right on top of each kidney. Now, similar to TSH's effect on the thyroid, ACTH is responsible for maintaining the health and size of the adrenal cortex. But more importantly, it's the primary stimulus for the synthesis and release of a class of steroid hormones called glucocorticoids, and the most important of those is cortisol. The regulation of ACTH follows a similar hierarchical axis to the one we saw for TSH. This is known as the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, or HPA axis. The process begins in the hypothalamus, which in response to various forms of stress, whether physical, emotional, or physiological, or just a normal daily rhythm, releases corticotropin-releasing hormone, or CRH. CRH travels through the portal system to the anterior pituitary and stimulates the corticotroph cells to secrete ACTH. The ACTH is then released into the general bloodstream and travels to the adrenal cortex, where it binds to its receptors and triggers the production and release of cortisol. The HPA axis is also governed by a powerful negative feedback loop. As cortisol levels in the blood rise, cortisol itself acts as an inhibitor at both the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary. high levels of cortisol suppress the release of both CRH and ACTH. This feedback ensures that the stress response is controlled and turned off once the stressor is removed, preventing the potentially damaging effects of prolonged high cortisol levels. The secretion of ACTH and cortisol also follows a distinct diurnal, or daily rhythm, with levels peaking in the early morning just before waking, which helps to mobilize energy for the day, and then gradually declining to their lowest point at night. Disorders of the HPA axis can lead to some pretty serious conditions related to cortisol imbalance. For instance, Cushing's disease is a condition caused by a pituitary tumor that secretes excessive amounts of ACTH. This leads to chronic overstimulation of the adrenal cortex and therefore chronically high levels of cortisol, resulting in symptoms like weight gain, high blood pressure, and muscle weakness. On the other hand, a deficiency in ACTH, maybe due to pituitary damage, would lead to adrenal insufficiency and low cortisol levels, a condition known as secondary adrenal insufficiency. Measuring both ACTH and cortisol levels is absolutely essential for diagnosing these disorders and pinpointing the location of the problem within the HPA axis. The final two tropic hormones from the anterior pituitary are follicle-stimulating hormone, or FSH, and luteinizing hormone, or LH. Because they both target the primary reproductive organs, the gonads, meaning the ovaries and testes, they are collectively referred to as the gonadotropins. These two hormones are absolutely essential for normal sexual development, puberty, and reproductive function in both males and females. Although they're present in both sexes, their specific actions and patterns of secretion differ significantly between males and females, orchestrating the complex cycles and processes of human reproduction. In females, FSH and LH work together in a beautifully coordinated fashion to regulate the monthly menstrual cycle. At the beginning of the cycle, FSH, as its name suggests, stimulates the growth and development of several ovarian follicles, each of which contains an immature egg. As these follicles grow, they begin to produce the female sex hormone, estrogen. The rising estrogen levels then prepare the uterus for a potential pregnancy. Around the middle of the cycle, a massive and abrupt surge of LH is the critical trigger for ovulation, the release of the mature egg from the dominant follicle. After ovulation, LH stimulates the remnant of the follicle, now called the corpus luteum, to produce another hormone, progesterone, which is vital for maintaining the uterine lining for pregnancy. In males, the roles of FSH and LH are more constant rather than cyclical. FSH primarily targets the Sertoli cells within the testes, where it plays a crucial role in stimulating and supporting sperm production, a process known as spermatogenesis. LH, on the other hand, targets a different set of cells in the testes called the Leydig cells, or interstitial cells. The primary function of LH in males is to stimulate these Leydig cells to produce and secrete the primary male sex hormone, testosterone. Testosterone is responsible for the development of male secondary sexual characteristics, maintaining libido, and is also essential for supporting the sperm production initiated by FSH. The release of both FSH and LH is controlled by a single releasing hormone from the hypothalamus, gonadotropin releasing hormone, or GnRH. The hypothalamic pituitary gonadal, or HPG axis, is regulated by negative feedback, but in a slightly more complex way. In males, testosterone feeds back to inhibit both GnRH and LH secretion. In females, the feedback is more intricate, with low levels of estrogen inhibiting the gonadotropins, but very high levels of estrogen, as seen mid-cycle, paradoxically switching to a positive feedback effect that causes the massive LH surge required for ovulation. Understanding the distinct but coordinated roles of FSH and LH is fundamental to understanding the endocrinology of human reproduction. Moving to the neck, we find the thyroid gland. This gland has a butterfly shape. It's located in the anterior neck, in front of the trachea, and below the larynx. It's described as the body's metabolic thermostat. The hormones it produces regulate the rate at which our cells use energy, influencing body temperature and heart rate. Disorders are common and can manifest as hypothyroidism, leading to fatigue and weight gain, or hyperthyroidism, causing weight loss and anxiety. The primary products of the thyroid gland's follicular cells are two closely related hormones, thyroxine, also known as T4, and triiodothyronine, also known as T3. The numbers in their names refer to the number of iodine atoms attached to the hormone molecule. T4 has 4 iodine atoms, and T3 has 3. Both hormones are synthesized from the amino acid tyrosine and, crucially, from iodine, which is an essential dietary mineral. The thyroid gland is exceptionally good at trapping iodine from the bloodstream, a necessary first step in the hormone production process. Inside the follicular cells, iodine is attached to the tyrosine residues on the large thyroglobulin protein stored in the colloid. The thyroid gland produces far more T4 than T3, with T4 accounting for about 90% of the total hormonal output. However, T3 is the more biologically active of the two hormones. It's about 4 times more potent than T4. Although the thyroid secretes some T3 directly, most of the T3 in the body is actually formed in the peripheral tissues, such as the liver, kidneys, and muscles. These tissues have enzymes that can remove one iodine atom from the T4 molecule, converting it into the more powerful T3. So, T4 can be thought of as a prohormone, a reservoir of thyroid hormone that can be activated into T3, where and when it is needed. The primary function of T3 and T4 is to regulate the body's basal metabolic rate, or BMR. They increase the rate of cellular respiration in almost all cells of the body, which means they stimulate the cells to consume more oxygen and produce more ATP, or energy. This process also generates a significant amount of heat, which is why thyroid hormones are crucial for maintaining normal body temperature. This widespread effect on metabolism is often called the calorigenic effect. By setting the metabolic pace, thyroid hormones influence heart rate, the force of heart contractions, respiratory rate, and the motility of the gastrointestinal tract. Beyond their metabolic role, thyroid hormones are essential for normal growth and development. They work synergistically with growth hormone to promote the development of the skeletal system. Critically, they are absolutely required for the normal maturation of the central nervous system in the fetus and during the first few years of life. A deficiency of thyroid hormone during this critical period can lead to severe and irreversible intellectual disability, a condition known as cretinism. This really underscores the profound importance of these hormones, not just for setting our daily energy levels, but for the fundamental construction of our bodies and brains. Iodine is crucial for the synthesis of thyroid hormones T3 and T4. It's an essential micronutrient we must obtain from our diet. The thyroid gland uses iodine to produce hormones. Main dietary sources include seafood and dairy. Many countries iodize table salt to combat deficiency. Deficiency can lead to goiter. As a food safety officer, understanding iodine's importance is critical for public health and endocrine function. Ensuring adequate iodine intake is a cornerstone of nutritional public health policy. The thyroid C cells produce calcitonin, a hormone that lowers blood calcium. Calcitonin inhibits osteoclasts, reducing bone breakdown and calcium release into the blood. It has a minor effect on the kidneys, increasing calcium excretion. While calcitonin's role is clear, it's less crucial than parathyroid hormone for adult calcium balance. The parathyroid glands, tiny structures behind the thyroid, are essential for life. They secrete parathyroid hormone, PTH, the main regulator preventing low blood calcium. PTH is released when blood calcium drops, acting quickly to restore balance. Disorders like hyperparathyroidism or hypoparathyroidism can cause serious health issues. These glands are the body's indispensable guardians of calcium. Parathyroid hormone, PTH, raises blood calcium by acting on bone, kidneys, and intestines. It stimulates osteoclasts to release calcium from bone, increases kidney reabsorption, and promotes vitamin D activation for gut absorption. Chronic excess PTH weakens bones, while its absence is life-threatening. PTH's coordinated actions make it the master regulator of calcium. Without PTH, calcium homeostasis collapses. PTH and calcitonin are hormonal antagonists, balancing blood calcium. PTH raises calcium when it's low, calcitonin lowers it when high. PTH's effects are dominant and vital for survival, while calcitonin's role is minor in adults. This push-pull system keeps calcium in a healthy range. Their interplay is a classic example of hormonal homeostasis. The adrenal glands atop the kidneys are key to stress response and metabolism. Each gland has two parts. The cortex, outer, makes steroid hormones, and medulla, inner, makes adrenaline. The cortex produces hormones for long-term stress and metabolism. The medulla triggers rapid fight-or-flight responses. Cortisol, from the cortex, is especially important for metabolism and inflammation. Next, we'll explore the cortex and medulla in detail. The adrenal cortex is divided into 3 zones, each making different steroid hormones from cholesterol. Zona glomerulosa makes mineralocorticoids like aldosterone for salt balance and blood pressure. Zona fasciculata produces glucocorticoids, mainly cortisol, for glucose metabolism and stress. Zona reticularis creates small amounts of sex hormones, androgens, important for female libido and postmenopausal estrogen. The cortex's hormone production is tightly regulated by ACTH and other signals. Remember, salt, sugar, sex, each zone's main function. The mineralocorticoids produced by the zona glomerulosa of the adrenal cortex are essential for life. The primary and most potent mineralocorticoid is aldosterone, and its main job is to maintain the delicate balance of two critical electrolytes in the body, sodium and potassium. This electrolyte balance is inextricably linked to the regulation of water balance, blood volume, and blood pressure. Aldosterone exerts its effects primarily on the distal tubules and collecting ducts of the kidneys. It acts as a powerful signal, instructing the kidney cells to actively reabsorb sodium ions from the urine and return them to the bloodstream. This action of reabsorbing sodium has a secondary but equally important consequence. Following the principle of osmosis, where water follows salt, the reabsorption of sodium ions causes water to also be reabsorbed from the urine back into the blood. By increasing both sodium and water retention, aldosterone helps to maintain or increase the body's total blood volume. This in turn helps to maintain or increase blood pressure. At the same time that it promotes sodium reabsorption, aldosterone also enhances the secretion of potassium ions from the blood into the urine for excretion. This dual action, saving sodium and excreting potassium, is the hallmark of aldosterone's function. The release of aldosterone is regulated by several factors, but the most important pathway is the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, or RAAS. This system is activated when blood pressure or blood volume drops. Specialized cells in the kidneys release an enzyme called renin. Renin initiates a cascade that leads to the formation of a powerful hormone called angiotensin II. Angiotensin II then directly stimulates the zona glomerulosa of the adrenal cortex to release aldosterone. Aldosterone's resulting effects on the kidneys help to correct the initial drop in blood pressure. High levels of potassium in the blood can also directly stimulate aldosterone release, while ACTH from the pituitary has only a weak, permissive effect. Disorders related to aldosterone can lead to serious problems with blood pressure and electrolyte balance. Hyperaldosteronism, the overproduction of aldosterone, causes excessive sodium and water retention, leading to hypertension or high blood pressure, and excessive potassium loss, leading to hypokalemia, which can cause muscle weakness. Conversely, hypoaldosteronism, or a deficiency of aldosterone, as seen in Addison's disease, leads to the loss of sodium and water in the urine, resulting in low blood pressure or hypotension, and high blood potassium levels, or hyperkalemia, which can actually be life-threatening as it can disrupt the normal rhythm of the heart. This demonstrates the vital role of aldosterone in maintaining cardiovascular stability. The glucocorticoids, produced by the zona fasciculata of the adrenal cortex, are a group of steroid hormones that have widespread and powerful effects on metabolism and the body's response to stress. The most significant glucocorticoid in humans is cortisol. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone because its levels rise dramatically in response to any kind of long-term stressor, whether it be physical, like injury or illness, physiological, like fasting, or psychological, like anxiety or fear. Its primary goal during these stressful times is to ensure that the brain, which relies almost exclusively on glucose for energy, has a steady and adequate supply of fuel. To achieve this, cortisol's main metabolic effect is to increase blood glucose levels. It does this through several mechanisms. Its most powerful action is to promote gluconeogenesis, which is the synthesis of new glucose from non-carbohydrate sources, such as amino acids and fatty acids, in the liver. To provide the raw materials for this process, cortisol also promotes the breakdown of proteins in skeletal muscle and the breakdown of fats, or lipolysis, in adipose tissue. In essence, cortisol mobilizes energy stores from around the body and converts them into glucose. This action is crucial for survival during periods of prolonged fasting or stress, but it comes at the cost of breaking down body tissues. Beyond its metabolic role, cortisol has very potent anti-inflammatory and immunosuppressive properties. It inhibits the activity of white blood cells and suppresses the release of inflammatory chemicals like histamine and prostaglandins. This is why synthetic glucocorticoids such as prednisone and dexamethasone are widely used as powerful drugs to treat conditions characterized by excessive inflammation, such as asthma, rheumatoid arthritis, and allergic reactions. While this effect can be beneficial for reducing inflammation and preventing the immune system from overreacting, the downside is that chronically high levels of cortisol can suppress the immune system, making an individual more susceptible to infections. Disorders of cortisol production are common and serious. Cushing's syndrome is the condition that results from chronic exposure to excess cortisol, whether from an adrenal tumor, a pituitary tumor secreting too much ACTH, which is called Cushing's disease, or from long-term use of glucocorticoid drugs. It leads to a characteristic set of symptoms, including central obesity, a moon face, muscle wasting, fragile skin, and high blood sugar. The opposite condition, adrenal insufficiency, or Addison's disease, results from a deficiency of cortisol. It causes symptoms like severe fatigue, weight loss, low blood pressure, and low blood sugar. These conditions starkly illustrate the critical, yet delicate, balancing act that cortisol performs in the body. Deep inside the adrenal gland lies the adrenal medulla, which is functionally and developmentally distinct from the surrounding cortex. The adrenal medulla is essentially a modified sympathetic ganglion of the autonomic nervous system. It is composed of specialized cells called chromaffin cells, which are under the direct control of preganglionic sympathetic nerve fibers. When the body is faced with a situation of acute stress, danger, or excitement, the sympathetic nervous system is activated. Nerve impulses travel directly to the adrenal medulla, stimulating the chromaffin cells to rapidly secrete their hormones into the bloodstream. This system provides a near instantaneous hormonal surge to prepare the body for immediate, vigorous action. The hormones produced by the adrenal medulla are the catecholamines epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, and norepinephrine, also known as noradrenaline. The medulla secretes these hormones in a ratio of about 80% epinephrine to 20% norepinephrine. Both hormones have similar effects and work to trigger the suite of physiological changes known as the fight-or-flight response. This response is designed to maximize physical performance and alertness, enabling an individual to either confront a threat or flee from it. These are the hormones responsible for the sudden rush you feel when you are startled or frightened. The effects of epinephrine and norepinephrine are widespread and dramatic. They act on various target organs to orchestrate a coordinated response. They increase the heart rate and the force of cardiac contractions, which boosts cardiac output and blood pressure, delivering more oxygenated blood to the muscles. They cause vasodilation of the blood vessels supplying the skeletal muscles, heart and brain, shunting blood to these critical areas, while causing vasoconstriction of blood vessels, supplying less essential organs like the skin and digestive tract. They also cause the airways or bronchioles in the lungs to dilate, allowing for more efficient airflow. Metabolically, the catecholamines work to rapidly increase the availability of energy. They stimulate the liver to break down its stored glycogen into glucose, a process called glycogenolysis, and release it into the blood. They also promote the breakdown of fat in adipose tissue to release fatty acids, another source of fuel. Together, these actions cause a rapid spike in blood glucose and fatty acid levels, providing readily available energy for the muscles. They also increase overall metabolic rate, heighten mental alertness, and cause the pupils of the eyes to dilate. In essence, the adrenal medulla provides the short-term, high-intensity hormonal response to stress, perfectly complementing the longer-term, sustained response managed by the adrenal cortex. Located in the abdomen, behind the stomach is the pancreas, a heterocrine gland with both endocrine and exocrine functions. Most of the pancreas is exocrine tissue with cells that produce digestive enzymes. Scattered within are endocrine cells known as the pancreatic islets or islets of Langerhans. These islets produce metabolic hormones primarily for blood glucose regulation. The pancreas produces insulin and glucagon. Insulin lowers blood glucose and glucagon raises it. Understanding the pancreas's role in glucose control is fundamental. Let's look at the islets of Langerhans, the endocrine centers within the pancreas. Each islet contains hormone-secreting alpha and beta cells. These cells regulate blood glucose. Beta cells produce insulin while alpha cells produce glucagon. This push-pull system ensures blood glucose levels remain stable. Failure of this system defines diabetes. Understanding these cells is central to understanding glucose metabolism and diabetes. Insulin, secreted by the pancreas, lowers blood glucose levels. It acts on the liver, skeletal muscle, and fat tissue, unlocking cells to allow glucose to move from the bloodstream. This glucose is then used for energy or stored. Insulin promotes glucose storage as glycogen in the liver and muscles, creating an energy reserve. Insulin is also an anabolic hormone, promoting protein and fat synthesis. Its role is central to the entire metabolic economy of the body. Glucagon, the peptide hormone secreted by the alpha cells of the pancreas, is the primary hyperglycemic agent in the body. Its function is the mirror image of insulin's. Its main job is to raise blood glucose levels when they fall too low. Glucagon is released in response to hypoglycemia, and its major target organ is the liver, which acts as the body's central glucose buffer. Glucagon is the hormone of the fasting state, signaling to the body that nutrients are not coming in from the gut and that it needs to tap into its stored energy reserves to maintain a stable blood glucose supply, especially for the brain. The most important and rapid action of glucagon is to stimulate the liver to break down its stores of glycogen. This process is called glycogenolysis, which literally means glycogen splitting. Glucagon binds to receptors on liver cells and activates the enzymes that cleave glucose units off the large glycogen polymer. These free glucose molecules are then released from the liver into the bloodstream, causing a rapid increase in blood glucose concentration. The glycogen stores in the liver are the body's first line of defense against hypoglycemia, and glucagon is the key hormone that mobilizes this defense. It is important to note that glucagon does not have a significant effect on the glycogen stores in skeletal muscle. If fasting continues for a longer period and the liver's glycogen stores begin to run low, glucagon initiates a second, more sustained mechanism for raising blood glucose. It stimulates the process of gluconeogenesis in the liver. As we learned when discussing cortisol, gluconeogenesis is the synthesis of new glucose from non-carbohydrate precursors. Glucagon promotes the uptake of amino acids from the breakdown of protein in other tissues, and glycerol from the breakdown of fat by the liver, and stimulates the enzymatic pathways that convert these molecules into fresh glucose. This allows the liver to continue supplying glucose to the blood long after the glycogen stores have been depleted. The relationship between insulin and glucagon is a perfect example of antagonistic hormonal control working to maintain homeostasis. After a meal, high glucose stimulates insulin release and inhibits glucagon release, promoting glucose storage. During fasting, low glucose stimulates glucagon release and inhibits insulin release, promoting glucose release from stores. This finely tuned balance ensures that our blood sugar remains remarkably stable throughout the day. In cases of severe hypoglycemia, an injection of glucagon can be a life-saving medical treatment for people with diabetes, as it can rapidly raise their dangerously low blood sugar levels. The gonads are the primary reproductive organs of the body. In females, the gonads are the paired ovaries, and in males, they are the paired testes. These organs serve a crucial dual function, similar to the pancreas, in that they have both exocrine and endocrine roles. Their exocrine, or gametogenic function, is to produce the reproductive cells, or gametes. The ovaries produce eggs, also known as ova, and the testes produce sperm. This function is absolutely essential for the creation of new life and the continuation of the species. Our focus in this chapter, however, is on their vital endocrine function, the production of the steroid sex hormones. The sex hormones produced by the gonads are responsible for a vast array of functions. During fetal development, they play a role in the differentiation of the reproductive tracts. At puberty, a surge in their production triggers the development of the secondary sexual characteristics, the physical traits that distinguish males and females but are not directly involved in reproduction, such as breast development in females and the deepening of the voice in males. Throughout adult life, these hormones are essential for maintaining the health and function of the reproductive organs and for regulating the processes of reproduction, such as the menstrual cycle in females and sperm production in males. The endocrine activity of the gonads is not autonomous. It is under the direct control of the gonadotropic hormones, follicle-stimulating hormone, or FSH, and luteinizing hormone, or LH, which are secreted by the anterior pituitary gland. This places the gonads at the end of the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal, or HPG, axis. The hypothalamus releases GnRH, which tells the pituitary to release FSH and LH, which in turn tell the gonads to produce their sex hormones. The sex hormones then feed back to the hypothalamus and pituitary to regulate their own production, forming a classic negative feedback loop, with the exception of the positive feedback that triggers ovulation in females. While the ovaries and testes produce the same classes of hormones, the relative amounts are vastly different, leading to the distinct physiological characteristics of males and females. the ovaries produce large amounts of estrogens and progesterone, the primary female sex hormones. The testes produce large amounts of androgens, the most important of which is testosterone, the primary male sex hormone. It is the specific actions of these hormones that we will explore in the next two sections. Understanding their roles is key to understanding the endocrinology of reproduction, a frequent topic in biology-related examinations. The ovaries, located in the pelvic cavity, produce estrogen and progesterone. These hormones regulate the menstrual cycle, preparing the body for pregnancy. Estrogens, mainly estradiol, are the primary female sex hormones responsible for secondary sexual characteristics. Progesterone, produced by the corpus luteum, maintains the uterus for pregnancy. If fertilization doesn't occur, hormone levels drop, triggering menstruation and starting a new cycle. The testes, or testis in the singular, are the paired, oval-shaped male gonads located outside the pelvic cavity within a sac of skin called the scrotum. This external location is crucial because normal sperm production requires a temperature that is slightly lower than the core body temperature. The endocrine function of the testes is to produce the male sex hormones known as androgens. The most important and potent androgen is testosterone. The production of testosterone is carried out by the interstitial cells, also known as Leydig cells, which are located in the connective tissue that lies between the seminiferous tubules, the structures where sperm are produced. The Leydig cells are stimulated to produce testosterone by luteinizing hormone, or LH, from the anterior pituitary. Testosterone is the principal hormone responsible for the development and maintenance of the male reproductive system and secondary sexual characteristics. Before birth, testosterone is responsible for directing the development of the primary male sex organs, including the penis and scrotum. At puberty, a significant increase in testosterone production triggers the development of male secondary sex characteristics. These include the growth of facial hair, axillary hair, and pubic hair, the deepening of the voice due to the enlargement of the larynx, an increase in bone density and muscle mass, and the maturation of the reproductive organs to their adult size and function. Throughout a man's adult life, testosterone is required for maintaining libido or sex drive, supporting the health and function of the male reproductive organs, and crucially, for stimulating and maintaining spermatogenesis, or sperm production. While FSH from the pituitary initiates sperm production in the seminiferous tubules, testosterone is essential for the final stages of sperm maturation. Therefore, both pituitary gonadotropins, FSH and LH, are necessary for male fertility. LH stimulates testosterone production, and FSH, along with testosterone, stimulates sperm production. Unlike the cyclical hormone production seen in females, testosterone production in males is relatively constant on a day-to-day basis, although it does follow a diurnal rhythm, with levels typically being highest in the morning. The hypothalamic pituitary gonadal, or HPG axis in males, is regulated by a straightforward negative feedback loop. Rising levels of testosterone in the blood inhibit the release of both GnRH from the hypothalamus and LH from the pituitary. This feedback loop ensures that testosterone levels are maintained within a stable, normal range. This steady hormonal environment is responsible for the continuous rather than cyclical nature of male reproductive function. Our tour of the major endocrine glands now takes us back up to the brain, to a tiny pine cone-shaped structure located deep in the center of the brain, near the roof of the third ventricle. This is the pineal gland. For centuries, this gland was a source of mystery and speculation. The philosopher René Descartes famously called it the seat of the soul. While it may not be the seat of the soul, modern science has revealed that the pineal gland is an important endocrine organ, acting as the body's internal clock and a key regulator of our daily rhythms. Its primary function is to synthesize and secrete a single crucial hormone, melatonin. Melatonin is an amine hormone derived from the amino acid tryptophan. Its secretion is unique because it is not controlled by the pituitary gland, but rather by the daily cycle of light and darkness in our environment. The pineal gland receives information about light levels from the retina of the eye via a complex neural pathway. When the eyes detect light, this pathway is activated and nerve signals are sent that inhibit the pineal gland from producing melatonin. Conversely, when it is dark, the inhibitory signals cease, and the pineal gland is stimulated to produce and secrete melatonin into the bloodstream. This light-dependent pattern of secretion means that melatonin levels in the blood are low during the daytime and rise sharply at night, peaking in the middle of the night. This nightly surge of melatonin is the primary hormonal signal that informs the rest of the body that it is nighttime. It is the key regulator of our circadian rhythms, the approximately 24-hour cycles of physiological processes that occur in all living beings. The most well-known of these rhythms is the sleep-wake cycle. The rise in melatonin at night is associated with an increase in drowsiness and a lowering of body temperature, helping to promote the onset and maintenance of sleep. Beyond the sleep-wake cycle, melatonin is believed to help synchronize many other bodily rhythms, including those related to body temperature, appetite, and the secretion of other hormones like cortisol. The pineal gland and its hormone, melatonin, essentially act as the body's master clock or timekeeper, helping to keep our internal physiological processes aligned with the external 24-hour day-night cycle. Disruptions to this cycle, such as those caused by jet lag or shift work, can lead to desynchronized circadian rhythms, resulting in sleep disturbances, fatigue, and other health issues. This highlights the importance of this tiny gland in orchestrating our daily biological tempo. Our final stop is the thymus gland. Located in the upper chest, it's large in infants, reaching maximum size around puberty, then slowly shrinks. The thymus produces thymosins, crucial for T-cell development. These T-cells are a cornerstone of the adaptive immune system, defending against pathogens and cancerous cells. Immature T-cells mature in the thymus, learning to distinguish self from non-self. They then populate lymphoid organs, ready to defend the body for life. Phew! Understanding the endocrine system is vital for food safety officers. Food quality and composition directly impact endocrine health. Dietary choices influence hormone production and sensitivity. Carbohydrate intake affects the insulin-glucagon axis. Fats are building blocks for steroid hormones. Protein intake is essential for endocrine gland function. This knowledge underpins nutritional guidelines and public health recommendations, ensuring food safety and promoting long-term well-being. This is a big one. This is a significant area of public concern and regulatory oversight. In modern agriculture, certain hormones have been used to enhance the growth and productivity of livestock. This practice is driven by economic incentives to produce meat more quickly and affordably. Different countries have adopted vastly different approaches. In the United States, the use of specific hormones is permitted. The European Union has maintained a ban on the use of hormones for growth promotion in cattle since the 1980s. For a food safety officer, it is essential to be well-versed in the specific regulations of your jurisdiction. Endocrine disrupting chemicals, or EDCs, are a growing challenge in food safety. EDCs are exogenous substances that interfere with hormone action. They can mimic hormones or block hormone receptors, disrupting physiological processes. EDCs have been linked to reproductive issues, cancers, and metabolic disorders. EDCs can be found in our environment and enter the food chain through agricultural practices. Pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides used on crops can leave residues or contaminate soil and water. Food packaging and processing materials are also major sources of EDCs. Plastics like BPA and phthalates can leach into food, leading to human exposure. Understanding EDCs is crucial for food safety officers to protect public health. Beyond chemicals specifically classified as EDCs, a range of other environmental contaminants found in food can also have a detrimental impact on the endocrine system and overall metabolic health. Heavy metals such as lead, mercury, cadmium, and arsenic are natural elements that can contaminate the food supply through industrial pollution of soil and water. These metals can accumulate in plants and in the tissues of animals and fish. For example, mercury is well known to accumulate in large predatory fish like tuna and swordfish, while arsenic can be found in rice, and cadmium can be present in certain leafy vegetables and organ meats. These heavy metals are toxic to multiple organ systems, and their effects on the endocrine system are a significant concern. They can interfere with hormone synthesis and function in numerous ways. For instance, lead has been shown to disrupt the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, affecting stress hormone regulation. It can also impair thyroid function and interfere with the reproductive hormones. Cadmium can act as a metalloestrogen, mimicking the effects of estrogen and disrupting normal reproductive cycles. Mercury is particularly toxic to the developing nervous system, but also has documented negative effects on the thyroid and adrenal glands. The insidious nature of heavy metal toxicity is that it often results from chronic, low-level exposure over long periods. Another significant category of natural food contaminants with endocrine effects are mycotoxins. Mycotoxins are toxic chemical substances produced by certain species of molds that can grow on crops like grains, nuts, and spices, especially when they are stored in warm and humid conditions. Aflatoxins, produced by Aspergillus molds on corn and peanuts, are potent liver carcinogens but can also impact endocrine function. Zearalenone, a mycotoxin produced by Fusarium molds on crops like maize and wheat, is a well-known mycoestrogen. It has a chemical structure that allows it to bind to estrogen receptors, causing reproductive and developmental problems, particularly in livestock, and raising concerns for human health. The responsibility of a food safety officer includes ensuring that food is free from these harmful contaminants to the greatest extent possible. This involves enforcing regulatory limits for heavy metals and mycotoxins in various food commodities. It requires an understanding of hazard analysis and critical control points, or HACCP systems, to prevent contamination throughout the food production chain, from farm to fork. This includes monitoring agricultural practices, water quality, and, critically, the conditions under which food is harvested, transported, and stored to prevent mold growth. By controlling these contaminants, you are directly protecting the public from substances that can silently undermine the delicate balance of the endocrine system and long-term metabolic health. A thorough understanding of the endocrine system is a practical tool that enhances professional effectiveness. Your role is to act as a guardian of public health. This requires a multifaceted approach that considers biological, chemical, and physical hazards. The endocrine system is a common target for many of these hazards. You are the gatekeeper, ensuring that what reaches the consumer's plate is safe. When you inspect a food processing facility, you will be more keenly aware of the potential for chemical leaching. Your understanding of EDCs like BPA and phthalates will inform your assessment of their safety. Provide consumers with clear, science-based information about making safer food choices. The food safety officer stands as a crucial line of defense, safeguarding the long-term health of the public. Here are 10 key points about the endocrine system and hormones. Let's start with the first 5 points, which cover the foundational principles and the key controllers. First, endocrine glands release hormones directly into the bloodstream. Second, hormones are chemical messengers that interact with target cells, governed by the lock and key principle. Third, the system acts as a homeostasis regulator. Fourth and fifth, the hypothalamus is the controller, and pituitary, the master gland. The hypothalamus links the nervous and endocrine systems, controlling the pituitary. Let's focus on the most important metabolic regulators and the role of insulin and glucagon in blood glucose balance. Also, the function of the thyroid hormones in regulating metabolic rate. Next, the adrenal glands as the center for stress response. Hormone secretion is tightly regulated through negative feedback loops. Finally, the food safety connection through EDCs. Be aware of endocrine disrupting chemicals, or EDCs, that can contaminate food and interfere with hormone systems. Time for a quiz to test your endocrine knowledge. These questions cover key glands, hormones, and food safety implications. Get ready to apply your knowledge. Here are the questions. 1. A substance in food packaging binds to estrogen receptors. Is it A, mycotoxin, B, tropic hormone, C, endocrine disrupting chemical, EDC, D, heavy metal? 2. In hyperthyroidism, what are the expected levels of TSH and T4? A, high TSH, high T4B, low TSH, high T4C, high TSH, low T4D, low TSH, low T4. 3. Which hormone is produced by the hypothalamus but released from the posterior pituitary? A, ACH, B, GHC, LHD, ADH. 4. Iodine deficiency interferes with the synthesis of hormones from which gland? A, adrenal cortex, B, pancreas, C, thyroid gland, D, parathyroid glands. 5. Which hormone stimulates gluconeogenesis and has anti-inflammatory effects? A, insulin, B, aldosterone, C, cortisol, D, epinephrine. 6. The fight-or-flight response is primarily mediated by hormones from the A, adrenal medulla, B, adrenal cortex, C, anterior pituitary, D, pancreas. 7. Which hormone pair are direct antagonists in blood glucose regulation? A, cortisol and epinephrine, B, insulin and glucagon, C, LH and FSHD, T3 and T4. 8. The trigger for ovulation is a surge of which hormone? A, estrogen, B, progesterone, C, FSHD, LH. 9. Aldosterone promotes A, lowering blood calcium, B, sodium reabsorption and potassium excretion, C, sperm production, D, increased metabolic rate. 10. Zearalenone contamination means a food safety officer should be aware of a dangerous A, metalloestrogen, B, pathogenic bacterium, C, mycoestrogen, D, synthetic growth hormone. Excellent work. Let's break down the first 5 questions and analyze the correct answers. Question 1. An endocrine disrupting chemical, or EDC, interferes with the endocrine system. Question 2. In primary hyperthyroidism, the correct answer is low TSH and high T4. Question 3. ADH is produced by the hypothalamus but released from the posterior pituitary. Question 4. A deficiency in dietary iodine would interfere with the synthesis of hormones from the thyroid gland. Question 5. Cortisol stimulates gluconeogenesis, protein breakdown, and has anti-inflammatory effects. Let's continue with the second half of our quiz, focusing on the reasoning behind each answer. Question 6. The fight or flight response is primarily mediated by hormones from the adrenal medulla. Question 7. Which pairs of hormones are direct antagonists in their regulation of blood glucose? The correct answer is insulin and glucagon. Question 8. The massive surge of which hormone is the direct trigger for ovulation? The answer is luteinizing hormone, or LH. Question 9. Aldosterone plays a vital role in homeostasis by promoting the reabsorption of sodium and excretion of potassium. Question 10. A food product is recalled due to zearalenone contamination. A food safety officer should know this is a dangerous mycoestrogen that can disrupt reproductive hormones. Congratulations on completing the quiz. Passing your food safety officer exam is about applying knowledge under pressure. Focus on understanding why behind the facts. Create flowcharts to visualize chains of command and feedback loops. Master the art of association to make things memorable. Pay attention to where endocrinology and food safety intersect, high-yield topics for your exam. Practice multiple-choice questions to reinforce content. Identify keywords and questions. Analyze mistakes thoroughly to ensure you're prepared on exam day. We have covered an immense amount of information today. We've dissected the elegant complexity of the endocrine system, from the chemical whispers of hormones to the grand symphony of physiological regulation. More importantly, we have built a solid bridge between this fundamental biology and your future responsibilities as a food safety officer. This knowledge is not just academic, it is the scientific foundation upon which you will build a career dedicated to protecting the health and well-being of the public. The endocrine system, with its delicate balance, is a silent victim of many modern food-related hazards, and you will be its informed and vigilant protector. Remember that every regulation you enforce, every inspection you conduct, and every piece of advice you give has a real biological consequence. When you ensure that food packaging is safe, you are preventing EDCs from disrupting a child's development. When you monitor for pesticide residues, you are protecting the population's hormonal health from long-term damage. When you enforce rules on mycotoxin levels, you are safeguarding the reproductive and metabolic health of countless individuals. Your work is a critical external defense that supports the body's own internal systems of control and homeostasis. It is a profound responsibility, and one that requires both diligence and a deep scientific understanding. As you move forward in your studies and into your career, carry this knowledge with you. Let it empower you to make sound judgments, to ask the right questions, and to be a confident and effective guardian of the food supply. The topics of endocrinology and food safety are dynamic, with new research constantly emerging. Commit yourself to being a lifelong learner, staying curious and up-to-date on the science that underpins your profession. You are embarking on a career that is essential, challenging, and incredibly rewarding. You are not just checking boxes, you are protecting the very essence of human health. Thank you for joining me for this essential guide. I hope it has clarified this complex topic and has given you the confidence and the tools you need to excel in your food safety officer exam and beyond. Study well, stay focused, and look forward to the vital role you will soon play in our society. This concludes our session on the endocrine system and hormones. Good luck with your preparations, and I wish you every success in your future career.